On behalf of the National Security Advisor, I wish to welcome you to this dissemination workshop on conflict-sensitive communication and reporting trainings, and to thank you for being here this morning, given your very present responsibilities in the information and conflicts management environment. Between November 2014 and July 2015, the Office of the National Security Advisor has partnered with the Nigeria Stability and Reconciliation Program, the United Kingdom Department for International Development Content Program, to deliver 5 trainings in Abuja, Kano, Jos, Port Harcourt, and Gombe State, targeting spokespersons in law enforcement, security and intelligence services, as well as defense and security correspondents from the media. Based on the concept of conflict-sensitive communications and reporting, the Office of the NSA and NSRB, through the Diamond Awards for Media Excellence, brought 20 correspondents and 20 spokespersons in each of the target geopolitical zones, creating a space for interaction and trust building. The target was to train 100 participants, each from the media and from the security services. From the participation of over 200 practitioners have already been trained. An output that points to the buy-in of the trainings by all stakeholders. Consequently, we are here today to share with you some of the findings and lessons that have been learned in the course of these trainings. The technical assistance provided by the NSRB has ensured that participants' feedback is generated, and it is our firm belief that this dissemination workshop provides both the security services and the media the opportunity to identify critical next steps in mainstreaming the good practices in conflict-sensitive communications and reporting. We will therefore look forward to receiving some clear and actionable next steps at the end of this dissemination workshop, especially on how best spokespersons and defense correspondents can be supported by government and our partners to implement new conflict-sensitive communication practices that promotes peace and the conflict support. By the provisions of the Terrorism Prevention Act 2013 as amended, the Office of the NSA is tasked with the responsibility to build the capacity of law enforcement and security agencies to discharge their counter-terrorism implementation mandate. This partnership is one of such ways that the NSA is doing this. Our strategic communication capacity building efforts has resulted in the training of 174 federal personnel on good communication practices as we continue to put structures in place to institutionalize strategic communication as a core capability across government agencies. The Federal Ministry of Information and Culture will continue to play a critical and important role in ensuring that our communication assets, capacity, and practices are aligned with our core national values in support of national security, peace, and development. One of the major objectives in these trainings is to bridge the communication gap and build trust between spokespersons and defense correspondents. We believe this is an ongoing process which has started yielding good results. More contacts have been built since this training started, and this is evident in the WhatsApp conflict-sensitive communications and reporting group network, to which most participants of these trainings now belong, sharing ideas and keeping in touch on evolving stories. In reality, what we often need to do is to bridge communication gaps and build trust is to connect. We therefore wish to encourage this practice. Through the trainings, we also learned of several challenges faced by spokespersons and correspondents, some of which will require action by editors and heads of agencies. That is why this dissemination workshop will share highlights of the recommendations received over the last 5 trainings. Due to the prevalent security situation at the time, the training in the Northeast was moved from Maiduguri, the Borno State capital, to Gombe State. Participants from Maiduguri shared insights on the difficulties reporting from Maiduguri. The situation has improved over the last 6 months, and more journalists are now being embedded to ensure access to information from the field. A new media center has been set up and is functional for Operation Lafayette Dole. Our armed forces now also update the public consistently through social media on the counter-terrorism and counter-insurgency operations ongoing. These are changing dynamics that stakeholders in the media should note and embrace. Going forward, we must be conscious of the need to sustain this initiative. One of the outputs expected from these trainings was the development of a company-sensitive communications and reporting curriculum to be used in the training of journalists and government media personnel. Through the assessment at the end of this dissemination workshop, we must consider how we can bring about this as a part of a sustainability plan. Finally, let me once again reiterate the commitment of the Office of the National Security Advisor in continuing to partner with all stakeholders across government, civil society, and the international community to bring about better management of conflicts in Nigeria. It is our firm belief that communicating and reporting conflict in a sensitive manner is critical to peace and conflict resolution, and a practice that both state and non-state actors should provide. Governance relies on communication to connect with the citizenry in a credible and efficient manner, and with the increasing role of the social media, both government and the media must work closely to manage the change in ways that ensure national security and progress. Once again, I wish to appreciate the participants, the Diamond Awards for Media Excellence for delivering the trainings, the NSRP, and extend the esteemed regards of the National Security Advisor. Thank you very much for your attention.
Honourable Minister and distinguished guests, and all those who participated in the workshop in one way or another. It's a great pleasure and honour to be here representing the British High Commission, the British Government, and to give our support to this workshop, which deals with, I think, one of the most important issues that we're facing in the communications sphere. I think lack of information, or inaccurate information, or indeed improperly reported information, can be itself a driver to conflict. It can lead people to make bad choices, ill-informed choices, and can undermine the very security forces, the very government structures that are trying to help and protect civilians. In order to have accurate and timely information, all institutions need to cooperate to tell the truth, to understand what the truth is, what it means, and indeed to ensure that the population understands the implications of what's happening. So it's for those reasons, and for the very important consequences of having accurate and timely information, that we, the British Government, the British High Commission, are pleased to be here and to support this. And it requires, I think, journalists, communication experts, security operatives to be part of the solution when it comes to dealing with this issue. I was not in Rwanda in 1994, but I have worked in Rwanda since. And I know the corrosive, the incredibly damaging impact the media has in driving genocide, in forcing people or encouraging them to do the wrong thing, and giving them information that was not information at all, it was hate speech, and was driving them into terrible acts. I've also been in Nigeria during 2015 and seen conversely the very important and very productive and constructive role civil society played in exposing potential acts of malpractice around the elections, in discouraging them, in helping the electorate to understand why certain things would be wrong to do, and others, frankly, would be right in terms of standing up for their rights, for their democracy. And so for me, what this workshop does, I think, is underscore the importance of strengthening accountability, in strengthening the choices that people can make with the right information, and, very importantly, to achieve that cooperation is required, and honesty and trust. I want to thank and really support the Nigeria Security and Reconciliation Programme that has been our method of support for this programme. but really to thank and support all partners, including the Office of the National Security Advisor, for their participation. I think the next step now is for those who are here, the leaders of those organisations, to make real what it is that has been looked at. Thank you very much again, and it's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you.
I wish to thank the UK Department for International Development and the Nigerian Stability and Consolidation Programme Consortium for both the technical and financial support towards the delivery of these workshops. Let me also appreciate the DAME Award for Media Excellence for identifying trainers and media stakeholders that were instrumental to the success of this initiative. I look forward to learning from this partnership and hope that it will shape and contribute to similar undertakings that my ministry is set to implement over the next few years. Let me therefore, on behalf of the federal government, once again reiterate our commitment to broadening the space for collaboration efforts that support Nigeria's peace, security, and development. Our country is facing numerous challenges at this time: terrorism, widespread corruption, poverty, and economic challenges. But the good news is that Nigerians across faiths, tribes, age groups, and income levels have made a choice to break from the past and embrace the future free from insecurity, corruption, and poverty. With this choice, difficult but necessary paths to opportunities have opened up, promising to defeat terrorism, free public funds from the web of corruption, and put our people back to economic prosperity. To achieve these goals, everyone has a role to play. We are not alone on this path. Across the globe, Nigeria, under the leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari, continues to enjoy the goodwill and support of big nations and organizations, all of which want to see us free from the scourge of terrorism and corruption. We must, as a nation, recognize this opportunity and seize it promptly. As spokespersons of various agencies, defense correspondents, and media stakeholders, Nigeria relies on you to understand this changing pattern of our fortune and report it in a conflict-sensitive manner. To step into the future that we desire, we must acknowledge those things that kept us behind all these decades. Elite greed has been a major cause of our misfortune. In pursuit of power, and for no other reason but primitive accumulation of wealth, few people with access to power and commonwealth appropriated to themselves all imaginable wealth, stashed away in banks and in vaults, and also in form of property abroad. Echoing what I stated recently in Abuja, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry mentioned how over 50 Nigerians stole more than $9 billion between 2006 and 2013, and rightly pointed that corruption is a radicalizer. Pillar 1 of the United Nations counter-terrorism strategy identifies conditions that are conducive to the spread of terrorism, among which are poverty, injustice, prolonged unresolved conflicts, lack of social mobility, alienation, etc. All these factors are prevalent in Nigeria today, a direct consequence of the plunder of public funds. That is why Nigeria's fight against corruption is inextricably linked to the fight against terrorism. To defeat terrorism, we must eliminate the underlying conditions that bring it about. In our very recent history, we also saw that you cannot fight an insurgency when your army is ill-equipped, ill-motivated, and the soldier is not sure about his speed. Because those who have been tasked with the responsibility to provide have chosen to divert and steal what is meant for funding a war we needed to win quickly. The President understands this And with more accountability, transparency, better equipment and motivation, I bear witness to the success of our troops in the Northeast. Having personally visited several liberated communities, it is therefore a sin of national survival to track every kobo according to the Appropriation Act. Nigeria's political and economic elite are called upon to build a consensus against corruption and support every effort geared towards protecting it and returning to the national coffers all ill-gotten wealth. The war against terrorism and corruption must be anchored on an enduring master narrative. But for both spokespersons and correspondents, a key gap to being effective is to know what narratives support and amplifies our core national values. Our constitution, our religions, our cultures, our diversity, our armed forces and law enforcement officers, our ability to rebound in the face of challenges, all combine to make us a unique and great people. In the many difficult choices ahead, we must mobilize citizens in the positive direction and unleash the positive energy we need to develop our economy and live in peace and security. This is the kind of narratives we require to dismantle the infrastructure of extremism and unite against corruption. Beyond bullets, we must strengthen and mobilize our core national values and narratives against terrorism and corruption. Wherever you find corruption across the world, the pathway to radicalization is widened. Terrorists misinterpret and corrupt scripture in building their narratives, which they use to convert vulnerable people to their ways of thinking. We must consistently build networks of resilience against extremism. Faith groups, the media, politicians, government personnel, teachers and school boards, community-based organizations, and all have a role to play in preventing and countering violent extremism. That is why government is working hard to put in place the institutional structures that we need to implement our national strategies against terrorism and corruption. In reporting terrorism and corruption, however, reportage that glorifies or gives unfettered access to terrorists and corrupt networks is not supportive of our national interests. That is why correspondents should make all efforts to understand the threat. Take terrorism for instance. The now decapitated Boko Haram has always been clear about strategic objectives. Boko Haram is against democracy as a system of government. It rejects the constitution. It sees legislation as usurping the powers of God. It kills any uniformed personnel it comes across. It kills Muslims and Christians alike, and is linked to the ICIS, which enslaves and promotes violence against the weak, abusing the tenets of religion they claim to belong but know nothing about. Neither Boko Haram nor ISIS is Islamic. That is why in reporting about them, whether as spokespersons or defense correspondents, we must endeavor to use the correct identifiers. Calling them Islamic gives them the legitimacy they so desperately desire and which they do not deserve, and it alienates a majority of Muslims across the world who would in turn feel branded in a negative way. Corruption too fights back. Those who have abused their offices have access to a lot of cash, which they may use to influence the media to quote them either as victims or as innocents. In all this, Nigeria will rely on a patriotic media that knows and understands the threat we face while protecting the public's right to know. Going forward, we have initiated a number of campaigns. National Security Awareness Campaign, as well as National Sensitization Campaign against corruption, both of which we have launched, and a National Reorientation Campaign, which we will launch soon. We are going to inform and listen to Nigerians on the issues that concern us the most. Under my watch, the Ministry of Information and Culture, we work closely within and outside government to effect a change that promotes our national interests. We will work closely with the media to share information, knowledge, and build each other's capacity to better perform our roles. We'll engage you honestly in furtherance of our core national values. Through our words and deeds, we demonstrate and implement the policies and programs we have set before Nigeria. We are set to mobilize all elements of our national power in support of countering terrorism, corruption, and lifting Nigerians out of poverty. Through communication processes and infrastructure, we will synchronize government efforts in support of better coordination and access to information by the media. We will support online communication in deepening democracy and building the capacity of Nigerians to participate in the decision-making process. To reduce and manage conflicts, we will empower Nigerians with the information they need about government policies and actions to enable them make wise life decisions and to take advantage of opportunities. Finally, I look forward to the Dissemination Workshop report. I welcome any actionable recommendation on the role that the Ministry of Information and Culture can play in deepening the lessons of the previous workshops. I'm pleased with the key innovation of this initiative, which brought to a round table defense correspondents and security spokespersons. This is a sure way to bridge communication gap, to build trust and learn from each other's challenges. With the support of the National Security Advisor, the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture will seek ways of mainstreaming this practice and reaching more target audience in the media and security sector. I wish you all fruitful deliberations, and I thank you for listening. Thanks.
Thank you so much for the privilege to provide this vote of thanks. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.